All right, so this one, I'll say it's very long overdue. I want to talk about player expression, and the reason why I say it's overdue is because I tried to record this like once a month, but every time I do it, I get really mad because I actually detest how people use this term. I decided to be responsible. I have this nice outline over there that you guys can't see of what I want to talk about so I don't get super angry. So, okay, why do I not like the term? Because that's probably the first thing people are going to come at me for. I basically think people use this phrase, player expression. And for a long time, basically my story is I used to think that there was one way to play a character. Like there was just an optimal way to play a character. But you have to understand the games I came from. I came from like Melty Blood, then I moved to BlazBlue, then I moved to Persona. And I think around the peak of Persona, I was like, yeah, like there is just a perfect, absolutely perfect way to play. And this is what I should do. And everything else is bullshit. But actually, the thing that changed my mind about this is Guilty Gear. It is Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear Xrd. When I started Guilty Gear Xrd, I started to change my mind about this. If I were to give you a simple definition of player expression, the first thing I would do would be to go to Infill's Fighting Game Glossary. But, bad news, there's no definition of player expression there. So, the way that I would define this is that it's all about choice. It's about how people choose things in a situation. That's quite frankly it. That is it. That's how I define it. That's why I don't like the way people use it. The way that most people tend to use it, a player is playing and there's no tag and I can tell who they are, right? That's the general definition that people use. But if you relate that to how people make choices in a situation, that's all it is. But people usually go an extra step and they're like, they take it from the character's tool set perspective. But there's actually a bunch of problems with that. It seems to make sense at a glance, where it's like, if a character has a ton of tools, then players have more options to use, which means it will be easier to tell the difference between players. But that's not always necessarily true. So in Xrd, characters just have more stuff. They just have more moves, more special moves, more Gatlings, more everything than Strive. Strive is a pretty streamlined game where you have to work within restrictions in a pretty clear way, right? In this game, a lot of people are like, this game is really, really open. You can do what you want. So here's an example of the game making you feel like you can do what you want, but you actually can't, which is actually a really recurring theme in this game. I think maybe not all other strong players, but there will be some strong players who agree with me. So it's about Soul's Far Slash. So this is a poke he uses a decent amount against Milia. It's not the only. He has like this, of course, this. He's got a bunch of stuff he can do. But after this, he actually has a pretty big option set. So option set, that's just the things he can do after you block this, right? So he can do this. He can do this. He can do this. So he can do this in here. He can do this. What is this? My bad. There. These are his options, right? It's a lot of options, right? And not every player will pick the same thing. Some players will do this. Some players will do this. Some players will maybe do nothing. You know, there's a lot of stuff they can do. Important to note, it's not jump cancelable. It's very important to note. So despite him having all these options, we can build our own option set against this, right? Despite all these options that he has, they all actually lose to the same thing, which is this. So, okay. Despite having he has a ton of options here, and people will do different stuff here, but even though it seems like he has a ton of options, he doesn't really have a lot of stuff he could do safely, especially if the opponent knows. This game is full, Xrd is full of situations like this, where it seems like the opponent has this huge option set, but they actually don't, because the opponent on the other side can do like one thing that super tightens the situation up. So essentially what I wrote here is that if he does 2S, nothing happens to me. If he does Bandit Revolver, I hit him. If he does Gunflame, I can punish him. If he does Bandit Bringer, I hit him. If he does 5H, if the 5H connects, I block. And if he does Feint, I'm in the air and I'm Milia and I have a kajillion air options, right? Quite good situation. I basically only need to pick two things. Either just jump or I press far slash back. That's all I have to do. Even though he has all of these options. Most people only consider just that the characters can do a lot of stuff. They don't take the next step and build out the situations. I'm not saying Xrd doesn't have a ton of player expression, which is the opportunity to make choices in between the two players, because different people make different choices in different situations. I'm just saying the way that people tend to define it, which tends to be just around character tools, is not the actual best way to do it, right? It's not the best way to do it. So the thing you gotta understand about Strive is that since since they reworked a bunch of stuff, there are less cases of this character after this thing that they do, they have like this laundry list of options. It's usually after the most direct one is close slash. You block an opponent's close slash, you go, oh snap, they have like 18 things they can do. Like, what do I do? It comes up in neutral, it comes up on offense and defense. It just ends up being structured more around the system more than character tools, and just like what you literally did versus what they have. Where I think in Exerd it gets lost in the woods because of all the character tools they have. Team games are actually a little bit different because I find it really pretty interesting that people like, let's say, let Dragon Ball slide, where a lot of these characters, I mean, the original way I put it is that this game is Bardock fighters and everyone is based off Bardock or SSJ Goku or SSJ Vegeta. And there's not a lot of characters that are not these three. And then usually when they buff characters, they give them stuff that Bardock had. But despite that, everyone has a really different experience in this game because you have to pick multiple combinations of characters to accomplish specific goals. So you're not doing it on a specific character level, you're doing it on a team level, which means you're not going to do it the same as other characters, even though a lot of the characters are really similar in this game. We talked about this in Dragon Ball Days a lot, about how you build teams like around Lariat Beam, for example, or you could have the classic DP plus frames, DP beam, various different neutral structures you could use to win the game, but it's all at a macro level. It's a character with a character. It's not about the specific character, right? This is kind of how Dragon Ball gets away with it. And I actually think it's a really good thing too, because no one feels like they're doing the same thing, even though they're doing the same thing a lot at a system level. At a character and team combination level, they're not. So the thing that you got to remember is, like, if you point at a game and say this game doesn't have a lot of player expression, you have to understand what you're saying. What you're saying is there is not a lot of room to make a lot of choices in the game, which is almost never true in any fighting game, basically. Theoretically, this is theory talk, but the games with the least player expression would be games where you get TOD'd off everything, which basically don't exist. In all games, you have to make choices revolving around your opponent in different contexts. Neutral in various positions, offense, direct defense, knockdown situations, right? That's why I just really detest that term. People need to say what they want. This is what I talked about before in like I think it was like when Max was talking about like what characters should have more tools and stuff, or maybe it was like the original like loose tight video, but like I think it was the original loose video, actually loose, right? Where people need to be able to say, and if you think I'm a dick for saying I'm trying to articulate what people are saying better, I'm sorry, but this is what I feel people are saying for real. They need to say, we want characters to have more moves, like literally, because that's what they mean when they say player expression. You know what we should do, actually? This would be a fun little mini game. I feel like I've been floating this a lot. I should get like 3 characters, right? Milia, like Nago, and Geo, maybe. Geo Ram, one of these two, right? Or even better, I should get Milia, Nago, and like Gold Lewis. And I gotta ask people to do it. We all pick the default color, and we send it to Sajam and be like, can you tell who this is without seeing their name tag, right? Because I think it's free to do, actually, because if you've seen a player play and then you see them with no name tag and you see the type of choices they make, you're like, oh, it's like, for example, for me, it'd be pretty obvious when I'm the one playing Milia, right? Because there's 2 really big standout things about how I play Milia. Or 3. Let's go with 3. 1, I tend to make really safe choices. I tend to not take big risks. 2, the way I move around the screen. And 3, the way I do mix-ups. You know I'm playing Milia because I do the boring mix-ups that all the other Milia players say that I'm fucking autopilot because I already do the same mix-ups. But I just do 50-50s. So it's that. And then if you see this, a little bit of this, and like lots of single movements, then you just know it's me right away. Choices aside, even the way people move, the combos they pick, how they defend themselves, how they attack, all these things is all about the individual. I cannot stress this enough. That's why I keep saying it. It's all about the individual choices. Everything else, you're basically saying something else, frankly. Between how people make choices, character selection, because archetype, right? You do need different archetypes of a character. Not everyone wants to play like a rushdown character. Some people want a zone, blah, blah, blah. The game should give you those options. And I think most of the fighting games I played have given you that. At a team game, team choices are a big factor. Assist choices are a big factor. How you put everything together. But it's all about choices. Okay. Anything else? Sorry. Any questions? I said anything else.